Executive Director of the Sacred Fire Foundation, and I'm delighted to be here and honored that we're doing this event. And I want to first acknowledge some folks that are here because they make this organization what it is, and they put a lot of their heart and time and energy into what they do. So I'd like to first acknowledge our staff. Eric Noyce, where are you? Eric? And is responsible for shepherding, 100 family members today from home? Yes. Stitlali Pena, who is our communications person, I understand.
Okay, I'm doing the Facebook Live.
And she's also joining us on Facebook Live today. You'll be able to watch that afterwards if you'd like, and just we'll give you all the details for that. And Miss Mercedes Queso, who
Thank you.
Mercedes is responsible for our grant program, and we've just wrapped it up, and it was our largest grant cycle in the history of the organization, and I'll talk about that in a little bit in a minute. I'd also like to acknowledge some of our board that are here today. Mr. David Wiley, who is our chair. And he's sitting in the chair too. Ms. Keiko Cronin, who is our president. Gwen, where are you? Ms. Gwen Rose. There you are. Ms. Gwen Rose. Some of our other board members were not able to be here today, but we are acknowledging them in spirit. So thank you again for being here. I just want to impart a little bit of helpful, if I have the glasses on, a little bit of information about the foundation if you're not familiar. The mission of the Sacred Fire Foundation is to preserve and promote Indigenous wisdom because of its important and needed voice in today's world. When we look around at what's happening globally, we see humanity's disconnection from heart and spirit playing out in the form of climate change, divisive politics, extinction of species, and so much more. Our vision is that restoration and rebalancing is possible through a return to the original instructions we were given as human beings, the wisdom that helped us to experience the world as sacred and shows us what is possible in living in harmony with all of life through respectful, reciprocal relationship to all that is. We believe that Indigenous wisdom is crucial for all of us. The values and perspective held by the living Indigenous traditions and their communities demonstrate that it is possible to live a good life, one filled with meaning and purpose, grounded in sacred and interconnected nature of all life. This learned and earned wisdom holds the key to the future for all of us. Our work is in really, almost half of them were in Spanish, and we have given, over the past few years, 120 grants to more than 40 different organizations and communities on 6 continents. This year we will go over the $525,000 mark in grants, and we're doing 23. We just picked 23, correct? Yes. So it's very exciting. Yes. Our grant review committee ensures that each project reflects Indigenous perspectives, traditional knowledge, and cultural or spiritual practices. Community resilience, partnerships, capacity building, along with multi-generational exchange are keys to a positive outcome and a high degree of success. The grants have supported pilgrimages to sacred sites, native food traditions, maintaining cycles of ceremony, and revitalizing languages, healing practices, and traditional arts. Second, through our live gatherings and digital media, our awareness programs provide people with an opportunity to learn directly from Indigenous elders. We've hosted numerous events in Canada, Mexico, and the United States where thousands of people from all walks of life gather around the fire, experiencing the power of Indigenous wisdom and the sacredness of nature. And finally, the reason we're here today. Our annual Wisdom Fellowship Award honors Indigenous elders from around the globe for their lifelong achievement in keeping their tradition and wisdom alive, and for bringing leadership and knowledge to their people and communities. In every Indigenous culture, elders are the keepers of tradition, of the deep relationship with the living world and the sacred. We believe this is vital, not only to their communities, but to the entire world. A recent UN report on the unprecedented loss of species and biodiversity specifically cites the importance of recognizing the knowledge, innovations, and practices, institutions, and values of Indigenous people, noting that their views, perspective, and rights are relevant to broader society. By acknowledging and honoring them, our intention is to bring awareness of the importance and relevance of their wisdom and perspective to the world. I'd like to introduce Ms. Keiko Ronan, who will then introduce Tom and the Wisdom Fellowship Board. Keiko?
So good to see you all here this afternoon. We are here today to honor the life and work of Sakokweniónkwas, the one who wins, Tom Porter, a revered Mohawk elder. Many of you here are family, community members, and friends who have been touched by Tom's life work. His devotion to the Mohawk people and the Mohawk Nation is deeply inspirational. He has been an internationally recognized figure in Indian country since the 1960s, when he co-founded the White Roots of Peace, a coalition of Haudenosaunee elders who toured the nation, encouraging Indian people to embrace their culture and their tradition. He is the founder of the Akwesasne Freedom School, which teaches its curriculum in the Mohawk language. In 1993, he founded Kanatsioharé in Fonda, New York, to develop a community based upon the traditional spiritual beliefs and governance of the Haudenosaunee people, and to continue the language, the traditions, stories, songs, and dances of the Mohawk people in a place free from gambling, drugs, and alcohol. He has taught a number of subjects at the Akwesasne Freedom School and Trent University, and has lectured at numerous colleges and universities across the United States and Canada. In 1998, he launched the Iroquois Immersion Program, a cornerstone of the Carlisle Indian Boarding School in Reverse, which works to reverse assimilation and cultural genocide. He served for 8 years as the Secretary of the Mohawk Nation and for 11 years as an official interpreter. He held the position of Sub-Chief, one of the 9 chief positions of the Mohawk Nation, for 21 years, from 1971 to 1992. For 10 years, he worked in the New York State Penitentiary System as a chaplain for all of the Native inmates in the New York system, and taught them and helped them to conduct traditional ceremonies. He is the author of numerous books and pamphlets about the Mohawk language and traditional knowledge. And as you can imagine, he has received numerous awards. Back in 2017, I had the opportunity to hear Tom speak at the Two Circles Youth and Elder Gathering in Montana. He was standing alongside 2 younger generations of Mohawk adults and youth, and he was sharing his joy in knowing that the Mohawk tradition would continue to live far into the future, and he was very confident about this because the young people had embraced their tradition and their language. But what he didn't say that day was that this is in huge part due to the work that he's done through his lifetime. Tom's strength, dedication, and achievements have touched so many lives, and they will continue to be a gift for many future generations to come. He is an exemplary community leader, a loving and devoted husband, father, and grandfather. And we are thrilled to be presenting him today with the 2019 Wisdom Fellowship Award. And before I speak, his son Hennis is going to come up and sing and honor himself.
song we're going to sing is called Choctaw Walk. I think it's kind of fitting because my mother's a Choctaw, and that's where the song came from. They walked together all these years, and they're still walking together. And they got us walking with them. Oh, this is my grandson. Yo,
So, once again, Sakokweniónkwas, Tom Porter, congratulations. And I'll set this here, but I'm going to invite you to come up and speak for us.
I was doing a double mic. I hope I do this right. I think it is a great honor. I don't think I know that it is a great honor to be acknowledged with this award. But it goes through my mind about saying thank you, because we have been always taught since we were kids to be grateful for everything that we have in life, and for our family and our kids and grandkids and great-grandkids, and for our leaders, our elders, our chiefs, grandmothers and faith keepers, and all our people. And we have been told to be thankful. If it rains, never complain about rain. If it's winter, it's real cold, you never complain that it's cold or it's too windy. Or if it's real hot and humid, you don't complain that it's hot or humid. Because all of those are gifts from the Creator, and they're given special to us. So we are not to complain about it. And so I remember one time my grandmother said to me, I thought it was kind of funny, and then it was kind of factual too. And I thought I'd share it with you. One time I had to go to Onondaga to a meeting, at a Grand Council meeting, and it's 4.5 hours, I think, from our place to Onondaga. So, and it was real foggy in the morning. And I told my mother and my grandmother, I said, gee, it's real foggy, so I might have to go early because it's so foggy. I don't want to get in a wreck or something. And I don't want to be late. And my grandmother thought I was maybe complaining a little bit about the fog. And I wasn't really. I was just trying to say I got to go a little early. But she interpreted it as if I was complaining about it. And here's what she said. She said, did you know that the Creator is our Father, and that the earth is our Mother Earth, and that's our husband and wife, them two. And every once in a while, a husband and wife comes together, and that's what makes the fog. Oh, y'all been down that lane before. So don't complain about it. Because everything needs to grow, babies needs to be born. And that's what she said. So life is really simple, so we don't need to make it complicated. But as I've been thinking about things in my life since I was born, and I don't think I would dare anybody to try to follow that same route unless you have to. And then if you have to, I wish you all the luck. Because we've been shot at with guns, our house has been burnt, we've been ridiculed, we've been made fun of. And also we've been thanked many times, we've been celebrated many times as well. And all that's in the mix of one's life. But as I think about things, I was really, really lucky to be born when I was born. I was born in a time of history in my reservation on the Mohawk land where I come from. When I was a little boy, there were many, many old Mohawk women and Mohawk men who could barely utter an English word or two or three. There were lots of them, they can't talk English yet in where I lived in Akwesasne when I was little. So if you wanted to talk to an old Mohawk woman or old Mohawk man, you kind of have to know how to talk Mohawk. Otherwise you can't really communicate with them. And I remember one man named Louis Jacobs. His name was Kaharagero in our language, and he lived across the road from my grandmother. And I don't think he ever went to school in his life. In fact, I think he didn't. But that man loved to talk English. And he liked to talk English so much that I think he was showing off that he could talk English. And he couldn't talk English worth 2 cents. But when you listen to him, you think he was a professor. He wanted you to think that. And so one time, and I talk Mohawk, but when I go there, he wants to talk English to me. He doesn't have to, because I talk Mohawk. But he insists to talk Mohawk. So one time I was over there at his house, and we go to help him, because he's an old man. And he says to me, he said, and all the old Mohawks, including my mother, they don't know how to say Tommy. They say tummy. Tummy. They don't know how to talk English the right way. So I used to think my name was Tummy. And until I grew up a little bit, and I knew they were saying it wrong. And so Louis Jacobs, Galagero, says to me, Tummy, can you throw the horse over the fence some hay? And I know what he means, but it sounds funny. I know exactly what he means. I don't want to make fun of him, but I wanted to laugh. Because it is funny. But that's what I mean. He didn't know how to talk English, but he gets his message across. And he was a pretty good guy, that Lou Jacobs. And I wasn't going to tell you this one. I don't know if it's proper either to tell you this, but it's an example of his English. You want me to tell you? You won't get embarrassed? Louis Jacob, I don't know. No, I'll go ahead. Louis Jacob was 92 years old. And then he died shortly after, but he never went to a doctor, never went to a hospital, never. And then he got older and he got sick and he had to go to the hospital. So he was in Malone Alice Heights Hospital, and the nurse says to him, Louis, Mr. Jacob, did you have a bowel movement today? She asked him that question. And he looked at her, who's laying in her bed, just. And then she asked him again, Mr. J, did you have a bowel movement today? And he looked and he said, well, a little bit when I walk. The nurses told us, and then we told everybody on the rest of the day. And that's an example, because he didn't understand what that means. And so I have memories from our whole people like that, you see. But then also, my grandmother was, she used to be a clan mother too, in a bear clan, for one of the traditional groups before, when I was little. And because of that, and she also was an herbalist. She fixed medicine from the woods and the swamp, all kinds of medicines. And all her cousins did the same thing. And also she was a seer. So if you were sick, she could look into it with leaves and stuff and prescribe to you why you have a problem and what kind of medicine you need to take to get rid of the problem or whatever. And so because of that, many people used to come to my grandmother's house when I was a little boy. And in the doorway of my grandmother's house, we were taught never to be bold. So when somebody came that's a stranger that we don't know, we all run away, including my mother. And she had kids and she running away too. And the only ones that talks to visitors, grandma or my grandfather, because that's who they come to see, and the rest of us hide. It's just like a mother hen chicken with baby chicks. Any little noise and they all run under her wings. Well, that's the way we used to do. All through my growing up years. If somebody come we don't know, we all hide. But in those old boards on my grandmother's stairwell, there were knots. We had poked those out. Several of them. We poked out the knots. And when somebody comes, we run away and hide on a stair, but we look through those holes, what they look like, those company. And we stick our ears there too, so we hear everything what they're saying. So we were really a nosy bunch of kids. And they don't ever see us. But we hear and see them, everything, what they look like and what they're talking about. And because they were medicine people, we listened to what they're talking about. Bad medicine and how to fix it and how to correct things. We listened. And even when they went to pick medicine, they would hook up a team of horses in a wagon and go to South Bombay and part of the foothills of the Adirondack Mountain. All day long we go there and they pick medicine for the winter. I mean bags of it because winter's coming. And guess what? My age was just little ones. We were the diggers for the old people. We take shovel and they pour what medicine it is. After they do their speeches for the medicine, the prayers for it, then we kids do the digging for them old people. And we watched them. Too bad we didn't really pay attention more, because they were great medicine people. Almost any sickness they could heal it, because they knew. But schools took the kids away, and so when the schools came, they kind of erased all quality time that we had with elders, and the schools took over, and they didn't teach us nothing about medicine, and they didn't teach us nothing about nature, and they didn't teach us nothing about family. They just teach us Jack and Jill went up the hill and so on, and that's what we remember. Well, because of Grandma and her company, I heard them talking about clans. I heard them talking about clan mothers and chiefs and faith keepers. That's what I learned through the knot-hole of the old wooden boards. And then I remember, because she was a medicine lady, we used to have to go take people to Six Nations reservation when I was a kid. I jumped in with them, and they go get doctored by Bear Dance Society or Eagle Dance Society. And I was only a little one, and I seen them do all that. So I was gifted as a little kid because I was related to Grandma, and because and all her friends were like that, and I hung around with them. So whatever they knew kind of went in my blood, and that's where I got a lot of my thinking from them. And then, of course, a lot of my relatives, too, at our longhouse were my grandmother's cousins. They were the chiefs of the day when I was a little boy. Mr. Paul David, that was my grandmother's first cousin. He was the head faith keeper for the whole nation of our longhouse when I was little. When somebody died, he did all the talking. When somebody got married, he married them. When there was big New Year's dances and ceremonies, he's the main one talking. And his daughter became a clan mother. His son was a chief too. Those are all my relatives. And Moses David, that's my grandma's first cousin. So all the leaders at the longhouse were from my family. They were my cousins. And that's why I was privileged to be exposed to them. Not that I was educated by them or intentionally, I just happened to be born with my grandmother and all her relatives. And I bumped into that knowledge. And I'm so grateful that I did. And that I did poke those holes in those knots, and so I could listen. And then from there, because of our longhouse, I got to know the Onondagas and their leaders. I got to know in the Grand River Six Nations Reservation, Josie Logan and his dad, and Roy Buck and Huron Miller and all those people when I was young. Freeman Soden and Corbett Sundown, leaders from the Tonawanda Seneca, and Beeman Logan. And then also in Hopi country in Arizona, Thomas Banyaki and David Manyanki, and the old man Rob, the snake priest. I knew them when I was a little boy. I was 6 years old when Thomas Banyaka first entered our longhouse. Me and my cousin Richard Mitchell were 6 years old when the Hopis first came there. And how I know is because Thomas told me. He said, I knew you since you were a little 6-year-old kid. I didn't even know that because I was too young to remember. But when he told me that, I was quite honored. I mean, I was 6 years old when I seen the first Hopi, and I can remember it pretty good because Hopis are so small. They're not big Indians. And I was almost as big as them, and I was 6 years old. So I never forgot. And I like that scarf they put on it, hang it here, and that long hair. And I caught that David Manyangi with his bun down one day. He was at our longhouse in the summertime, and he was washing up by our longhouse, and he had his bun down. Because you don't know how long that hair is, because they bun it up and they wrap it up. And he had his bun down early, 5 o'clock in the morning, washing up in a small little basin, because I was in charge to take care of them. And he wore like this, and his hair was almost to his knees. And the wind was catching it, and it was waving. Oh, I said, wow, that's David Manyangi. And I never forgot that too. So those are the memories. Then they took us to also to South Dakota and North Dakota, and we met all those, Frank Spruce-Crow and all those kind of people, Leonard Crow-Dowd and all of them, Charles Kill's enemy. They were my friends, and I was just a kid yet, and I listened to them. And then one time the chiefs asked me from our longhouse, can I go with them to Okmulgee, Oklahoma? The next town next to Okmulgee is called Henrietta in Oklahoma, middle of Oklahoma. And they said this was in 1967 or 68, I can't remember the year. And we went there, and the chiefs asked me to go and drive them there and be their interpreter for them. So my Aunt Anna Jock and I went over there to help drive them over there, and I was the interpreter. And when I was there, that old man from Hopi, I can't remember what his name is, he's way older than Thomas Banyaki, because Thomas was their interpreter. And this other man was way older than him. And he was older than David Manyangi, too. I think he was in his 100, somewhere in the 100s. And he got there riding in the back of a pickup truck. They had a mattress in the back with a camper on top, and the Hopis were sleeping in there. That's their hotel, what do you call that? Fancy hotel they have nowadays. I forgot the name of it. But anyways, we didn't stay in hotels. We stayed in campers or in tents and sleeping bags. No fancy stuff. And when I was young, we had to go to meetings. Barely do it. Well, when I was there, I was a young guy, and that Hopi man's talking. And as he talked to the people, Thomas Banyaki was the interpreter. So he explained what he was saying, that old man. And that old man started, big tears come down. And he says, that old Hopi man said, almost all the nation of Indian nation is almost at the end now. He said, our young people is being taken away to schools, different kind of schools. And missionaries, what do you call those one that go all over the world? They're missionaries. I don't know if they got a special name, but they like to go all over the world and convert people. They're right in Africa today, they're in South America, they're everywhere. Well, they came to Akwesasne, they came to Hopi, they came everywhere too. And they're trying to make us stop our ceremonies and become whatever they are. And then they said, our belief is not good. It's pagan, it's heathen, and it's devil worship. And if we ever want to be saved, we have to accept the missionary and follow that. And that old man said, they come there all the time to Hopi. And they got lots of money to travel all over the world. And the Mohawks and Hopi and Lakota, we don't hardly have 2 cents to rub together. And we're almost on our last lakes. And we got no money to counter their, what do you call those again? What did I say a while ago? Missionary works. We have nobody to counter them, to send it, to follow them, say, don't listen to them, keep your ceremony going. So now, he started to cry. And he told us young people, he said, probably you are looking at the last of the traditional people in North America. After we're dead, I don't know if the younger generation can go on and do it. We're probably the last. Because we just can't, we're overwhelmed by schools, by missionaries, by social programs of government. We just don't have the resources to stand up and fight for ourselves. He says, so that's why we're here in Oklahoma, gathered all the medicine people to see what can we do about it. Or is it too late? And he had big tears in his eyes. He says, are we just going to go home and we not do nothing about it and just accept our demise, our extermination or our death coming? Is that what we're going to do? He says, but it's up to the young people. Are you going to take over when we die? When we die, are you going to bury us in a proper, sacred way? Or are you just going to throw us in a ditch somewhere because you don't know how to do it anymore? And he made a lot of people cry. So when he came back to Akwesasne, and we had to report to our chiefs at our longhouse, what did we do in Oklahoma? What did we see over there? What did all those nation leaders say? And that's the one I told them, what I just told you. And so our leaders told us, and they shook hands with us, and they released us from our delegation from going there, because we were, what do you call it, messengers of the nation. That was our job, and we had to be released. And when they released us, they shook hands with us. And so I said to them, so what are we going to do? Are we going to do something? How do we keep our longhouse going once all you leaders passes away and dies? Who's going to take over? And we asked that question to them. They said to us, younger people, so that means tell us what your idea is. How can we do something? So we got together, and we had a man. He wasn't a native. He was not one drop of native blood in him. His name, my aunt adopted him into the Bear Clan, and his name was Mohawk. He still lives. He's probably 90-something years old now. Lives in Ottawa. And he said, I'll help you. I'll help you. So we formed a group called the White Roots of Peace. And also the Akwesasne Notes Journal. And a lot of people knows the Akwesasne Notes Journal. It went all over the world. And I just got back from Germany 7 weeks. I was over there. I just got back 3 days ago. 7 weeks is a long time for me. And I finished. And those people are still asking, why did the Akwesasne Notes stop? We've been looking for that to continue, because it revolutionized a lot of the world and political movements in the whole world. That little tiny newspaper from the little Akwesasne, it's a world known. And then that Mohawk, he's not a native guy. He's the one who knows how to work telephone and typewriter, and he knows how to network, and he knows how to do business like that. Mohawks, we don't know how to do that. We're kind of crude in that way. We're not good PR people yet, because nobody taught us. So he said, I'll help you. So he got on the ball and he started organizing, and he became like our leader in terms of drug. We bought a great big 27-foot mobile home from a doctor in Vermont, used one. And then there was a whole bunch of people. We started to travel called White Roots of Peace. And you know who traveled with us? It's a lady from Onondaga. Her name was Alice Papino, or there was some time. And she was a Yukon mother over there. And no matter where we went, I forgot if we were on the road over 15 years straight, she traveled with us every time, without fail. And another one was Peter Mitten. He was a Cayuga medicine guy. He was a seer, and he went with us everywhere we went. And he's the one going to produce medicine to protect us in the world where we go. And he went with us. And then there was Lakotas went with us. There was her husband come with us, Coyote, too. And Crees from Saskatchewan, Alberta. And sometimes Choctaw from Mississippi. And different Indians join us. And we went all over the place. And that's where our bus, the first year we went to Florida to meet with Seminole and Miccosukee. And my uncle, his name was Ray Patton, he told us, be careful when you go down south, because KKK lives over there. And he says they're dangerous. They don't like black people, they don't like Indians, and they don't even like themselves. That's what he said. And I dismissed it. No, that might have been true 100 years ago, but this is not 100 years ago. So we didn't pay half attention to my uncle. We should have. Because after we finished our tour in Florida, the White Roots of Peace, we stopped in Atlanta, Georgia. Alice Papino was with us. Peter Mitten was with us. And 13 of us on that bus. And we got to Georgia, we filled up our gas tank, and we paid it, how much it usually costs, so we don't see nothing. And we got over to a rest area going towards Mississippi. That's where I met my wife that time. And when we got past Atlanta, Georgia, we stopped at a rest area, and we carried lacrosse sticks with us. So when we ever stopped somewhere, we would use lacrosse sticks and just have exercise and throw the ball with each other and run and exercise whenever we stopped. And then we would make sandwiches and make coffee or tea and have a little lunch and then go on. So what we did, well, we didn't know what happened, is that man in Atlanta, Georgia filled up our gas tank and charged us for that gas tank. And then he filled up our water tank on the side of the mobile home, and you have to keep twisting that for half an hour because it's for water. And that man at the gas station filled our water tank with gas and didn't charge us a penny for it. And we didn't know. We weren't listening, we weren't paying attention. So we had no idea. So when we stopped at that rest area, and our driver, Akwesasne, he made tea and coffee and sandwiches, and the guys went out, and then we came in, and when he lit that fire on the stove, there was some drops in the sink of water, and he usually throws the match in the sink because there's water a little bit in there, and this time it blew up. It blew up. And it knocked every one of us, picked us right up, and it threw us right against the wall, all of us in there. And everything was black. You know why it was black? Because the explosion, impact of the explosion of that, every dust and every little cranny got out and went everywhere, so it was completely black. We don't know if we're dead. We don't, because it was so black and we got pushed against the wall. We don't know what happened to us. And as the dust settled, then I seen Alice Papino, and she said, "Is everybody okay?" And then we're looking around at each other, and everybody seems to be okay. Nobody died, or nobody broke their leg. We just got thrown against the wall, and it went out. Miraculously, it went out. It just exploded fast and went out. And that's what happened to us. KKK attacked us that time. And so I got so mad that time because that happened to us. So I says to everybody, and they agreed to me too. I said, okay, guys, get your acrostics. Get it ready. We're going back to Atlanta, to that gas station. And we use this acrostics on them. They're going to try to kill us. We're going to show them now. A good thing that driver, he's not a Mohawk by blood. That was the same one. He says, no. No. He said, no, we shouldn't do that. I know you're mad, but he says, it's not going to help. So he said, because you go over there, he said, policemen who belongs to Georgia, they belong to KKK. And also judges in the courts also are KKK. You don't know who it is. So you don't know how many we're going to have to fight. They don't have enough acrostic for that. We'll just get killed. No. So we listened to him, and we went on to Mississippi that time. And then we got attacked too in Salt Lake City, Georgia. Almost we got kicked out of there too. And that was all the things we went through. But the White Roots of Peace never stopped. We went on, we met with the Navajos, with our people, British people, and California, before they went to Alcatraz. Because when they were going to Alcatraz, you know, they were only going to go for a half hour just to do the publicity and raise the consciousness of the Indian rights. But when White Roots of Peace met with, he was our cousin, Richard Oakes. He's from Akwesasne. So what he means is I'm going to go there only half hour for publicity. The treaty says if they don't use it, it goes back to the Indians. That's what the treaty says. Well, take it back. And they listen to us. And that's why they stayed there. I don't know how long it stayed, but it wasn't overnight. And then later on, Richard Oakes traveled with us too, after he got beat up and almost killed. And he had a stroke, and so he traveled with us. And so those are all the things we did back when I was younger with our old people, Alice and Peter Metten and the chiefs, and they endorsed us. And wherever we traveled, our old chiefs from our longhouse bundled us up and sent wampums wherever we went. We were official ambassadors of the Mohawk Nation, whether we went to a university to do workshops and presentation, to interpret what nativism is really, and also to other Indian reservations, wherever, to tell them, don't throw your ceremonies away. Don't discard your kivas, don't discard your longhouse or your weekly ceremonies. Keep it going. For those ceremonies is what the Creator gave us. The Creator did that and He put it in our hands. Don't listen to anybody else, because all of those teachings and tradition are called universal truths. It's from the Creator. And that's what connects us to the Mother Earth. It connects us to the sun, connects us to the Brahma moon, connects us to Brahma thunder, and it connects us to everything that gives us life. And we dance for those. And we speak spiritually to those with fire, tobacco, and with food. That's what we do. All the Indians and all North America. And we must never stop. And then our youngest singer was 13 years old. He was from Cornwall, Ireland. He was our youngest singer. One time we had about 5,000 people in a stomp dance. And 13-year-old little Mohawk boy, he led that dance. It was in Pennsylvania at a big park. And we could hardly hear the other end because there was so long line. They dancing, following him. And we answered him. Stomp dance that time. And so we tried to bring that message all over the place. And so when we got to California, and most of all our guys that we had on the White Roots of Peace and our older people, every day we talk Mohawk, no matter what. It's always we talk Mohawk. We have a coffee break, we're talking Mohawk. We go to the bathroom, we're talking Mohawk. Whatever we do, we're always talking Mohawk. And when we go to other reservations, like Ojibways or Lakota, they would listen to us all talking the language. And they would be shocked. How is there Indians still knows how to talk native language? Especially in California amongst the Pitt River people. At Pitt River, the last person to speak their language was probably died maybe 60, 70 years ago. And now they don't have no more. They don't have no more people that can speak Pitt River, I don't think, the way that lady said. And that lady, when we were there for 3 days at the Martin Luther King Center in Pitt River, California. And that one lady, I wish I knew her name, but maybe Lalihokwats might have it documented. And I don't know if she's living yet or not. But she came to us when we were leaving there. We were there 3 days. And she had a little baby this size, like my big grandson here. And she brought that baby and she gave it to Alice Papineau. And she was crying. And she said, the Pitt River Indians don't have a language anymore. And we don't have no more drum to sing on a drum. Probably 50 years ago was the last time they ever used a drum of any kind of ceremony, not since. And I seen all your women and kids singing and leading us in the dance for this last 3 days. And I hear you talk real good to each other in Mohawk language, no English. And she says, I got a little son, a little boy, and I have nothing to give to him. I got no language to teach him. I got no song to teach him. I got no ceremony to give to him. I got nothing for identity to give it to him. And she's crying. And she says, so what I'm going to do, because I love my son, I'm giving you this baby. And he put that baby in Alice Papineau's arms. I want you to take my baby. So when he grows up, he can talk our native language, even if it's Mohawk. It's better than nothing. And he said when he grows up, he'll have the ceremonies. He'll have identity that I can't give him. And she gave it to us. And it broke her heart. And we were shocked. And we had a meeting too. And we were so sad too. Because part of us wants to take that baby, but the other more greater part doesn't want to. We said, no, that's your son, your flesh and blood. You keep the baby. You're the mother, you keep it. We like to, but we don't know we can't do that. So Alice gave it back to the mother. Those are some things that we did back in the 60s and 70s and 80s to try to stand back our spirit and our soul and all that. And I want to share this with you now, this other part. Just that there was a meeting in Toronto, December, around December 18th or something, I can't remember the exact date. It was a World Environment Meeting, conference. And I went there. And Eric invited me to go there. He wants me to go there. So he will give me a gas money to go over there. And they fixed a hotel for me over there to go there. And I didn't really want to go because I thought my chiefs already fixed it. I thought that the Confederacy already had delegation to go. And I'm not delegated, I'm free from that since 30 years now. But he called me and said it's important, and another people from Grand River called me and said it's important, and I go. But I don't know what's the details. So I jumped in my car next to Albany, New York, and I got on through it. And I was asking myself, what am I going to do over there? And there's a world coming over there for environment. What I'm going to say over there? Because I don't know enough about it, I'm not prepared. And I was asking myself. And as I got next to Rochester, New York, I had country music on, because when I travel, I always put country music on, because it's a long ways from one town to another. And then Kitty Wells sings and George Jones, it gets me there quick. And so, all of a sudden, it seemed like it faded out. That's radio station, because you know how it fades out. And then all of a sudden, a Mohawk woman started talking Mohawk on the radio. Hey, what's going on here? Because there's no Mohawk lives within 200 miles from Rochester. We have a radio station in Akwesasne, and you can hear a Mohawk woman talk on the radio, or Kanatsioharé, or Grand River, but not Rochester. So I shut the radio off. I want to hear that. What's this message? And here's what it said. That woman kept talking after I shut the radio off. It says, you are asking yourself, what are you going to do over there in Toronto at that big meeting? She says, well, I'm going to tell you what you're asking because you asked. She says, I'm your mother, and I'm the mother of all living things. Then I understood right away, that's Mother Earth talking. And I was kept driving on that throughway, and she kept talking. And she says, this is what you tell them when you get over there. That your Mother Earth, their Mother Earth, told them what you were going to say. And she says, you tell them that everything that lives in this world, I'm their mother. But almost everybody in the whole world forgot that I'm their mother. They forgot me. And I'm lonesome for them, my kids. And then she says, when you get over there, you tell them what I just told you. And a certain time of the year, the day is half day and half night. Twice a year. She said, I made a mistake. You know why? When she told me that, I thought she was talking about December 21st and June 21st. I made a mistake. But I don't know why. And somebody told me that's not half day and half night, those days. It's another. It's in March and in September. And so I make that correction because I make the mistake. And so what she says, on that day, I want you and your wife, and you talk to your kids and grandkids, if they can come to your house when the day is half night and half day, and come to your house, and you and your wife fix food to feed them at your house. And when they get there, from the sunrise to the sundown, don't drive no car, and don't drive a tractor either. Because I got tractors, that's why I say. And don't drive a tractor either. Or anything that consumes gas. You leave them there. And then what you do, you can ride a bicycle with your kids. Or you can go on a canoe on the river with your kids. Or you can walk in the mountain hills on the trail with your kids. And then when you eat together, your family, all your family and grandkids, I want you to tell them and reintroduce them to me, their mother. What I do and why I'm their mother. I want you to talk about me because I'm their mother. Tell them who I am. And that will begin the healing journey of all my children on the earth. Twice a year, to do that from sunrise to sundown. And she said, when you get there to Toronto, don't make the people feel guilty that they have to do that. I want only the people, only my children, the one who will desire to do that because they want to, because they want to love me and honor me, not because you make them feel guilty. So I don't want you to do that. Don't coerce them. Don't say you're going to break their leg if they don't. You just tell them what I told you, and that's it. And let them make the decision without any force or any shame. It's got to be completely their desire. And so I delivered that message to you now. And then one more thing, if you have time, give me 1 hour, right? Well, I am in New York City, right? In New York City, anything goes, right? But just one last one I want to share with you, then I'm going to close my mouth. 6 years ago, going on 7, the Iroquois Confederacy decided to redo the renewals of the recital of the Great Law, which I am part of that group that helps to do that. And this year is coming up, it's going to be the 7th one they were doing. And after they finish the recital, and the recital usually takes 8 to 10 days, 5 hours each day, and it's still going on. It's not really fixed the way it's supposed to be yet. They're working on it. That's what we're doing. But after they finish that first year of recital, it's customary to ask, did anybody have a dream or a vision? That's what usually goes with that recital. And so they asked that, and I did have it that time, and I want to share that with you. I don't know if my wife remembers, but that time, around 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the morning, and there was still snow on the ground yet, because it was before that Great Law recital to be, they told me what to do. And all of a sudden, a black oval appeared in my sleep. And it says to me, that's why it woke me up. That's what it said. And that means hurry up and get up. You gotta go to a meeting way over there. And when I used to be on the council of our nation and go to Grand Council years ago, that's what they used to tell me. I got to get up and get ready to go. And now all of a sudden, after all these years, I hear it in a dream. And it's coming from a black oval, black, pitch black, and it's talking. And it says, and I don't want to go. And I said, no, I didn't say no to them, but I want to say no to them, whoever it is. I don't know who it is. It's a voice. But I think it might be the Creator or one of his messengers. I don't know. But I know it's some high-powered source. And so I want to say diplomatically as I can, no. I don't want to. But I was pondering in my mind, how do I diplomatically say no? And then I came to the conclusion that there's no diplomatic way to say no, just say no. And so by the time I got the courage to say no to him and I were already in Onondaga. We were already there, and we were floating in the air like 2 sticks, black, oval, and me, and we were 10 foot above the ground. And you know, if somebody knows where Onondaga is, and behind the longhouse, there's a field, and they usually play ball there, stick ball, medicine ball game over there usually before. That's where. And there were people sitting there on the ground, all on the ground. Hundreds of people, men and women, sitting on the ground. And all the men had blankets around their shoulders, on one shoulder, tied here, sitting on the ground. Women had shawls on, you know, like dance shawls, either over their head or on the shoulder, around in a circle. And then he asked me, what did I see? And I said, I can't see good because it was dawn. It wasn't day, it wasn't night yet. I couldn't see good. But he wants me to see what I see. And I squint and I look. And then I look. I told him I seen all the people with blanket and shawl. And then I said, I see empty spaces between where they're sitting. It's almost like somebody got their tooth knocked out. You know, and it's got spaces in between. That's how it looks like when they were sitting down. And at the bottom were blankets with nobody in the blanket, and there were shawls with nobody's shawl on them. Just empty spot. And he says, that's true, that's what you see. And then he said, look some more. And I looked some more. And this time when I look, he says, what did you see this time? And I start laughing at him. And I laugh real hard. You know why I laugh? Because I seen Tom Porter sitting there with a blanket on amongst those people. And he laughed. What are you laughing at? I said, I seen him. I said, you know, you're right. That is you. He says, but you're not going to have that blanket too much longer. And then he says, I don't mean next week or next month, but it won't be long, and your blanket will be on the ground too. And then he says, what it means, he said, you see that space right there with the blanket on the ground? That was Corbett's sundown. He's gone. Died. But that's his blanket. You see that other space over there? That was old Josie Logan. I'm not talking about the young Josie Logan, the old Josie Logan. And the other one over there is his son, Josie Logan Jr. And next to there is a blanket, a shawl, that's Verna Logan. And here's the other one over there is Roy Buck. And he went on, he named them. Named quite a few of them. I knew all of them when I was young. And then he went to Akwesasne Park, and he says, that one over there, that is a Jake Swamp. That's his blanket, sitting on the ground. That one over there is a Joe Swamp. That's his brother. And that one over there, Arlene Logan, and Beeman Logan, and so on. And he went on down the whole thing. And then here's what he said to me. 50 or 60 years ago, just like that Hopi man I told you about earlier, what he's talking about, this is what this man was talking about too. He said 50 or 60 years ago, it was like he were on a big ship. It reminded me of the Titanic. And all our people were on a big ship. And you were going 6 more inches from the Niagara Falls where it falls. With all the women, children, all your grandkids is on there. And you're going to go over the falls. And once you go over, there's no return. That's the end. You will become like dinosaur, no more, ever. He says, and I was sad. That black oval said, I was so sad. And so what I did, he said, you don't know this, but what I did is I came to you and I grabbed you and I hold you and I touch you on your head. And he says, I grabbed you and I grabbed and I hold you and I touch you. I went all over Tonawanda, Onondaga, Grand River, Akwesasne, South Dakota, Arizona, and I touch you. He says, that's why 50 and 60 years ago, you began to organize. And you didn't have a summit to organize. All of a sudden, it just grew automatically without any networking. And you made White Roots of Peace. You made Akwesasne Freedom School. And then you made Cayuga language immersion classes in the Grand River. And Seneca immersion and Mohawk immersion in the Grand River. Ganawanga began to have immersions. Tyendinaga started to have immersions. Every reservation started to do it. And all longhouse is filled up again now. He said, I'm the one, and I went around and I touched you all. And when I touched you, I gave you the power in your body. And when I touch your head, I put it in there, ideas, what you might start to do. And it's all together as if somebody had organized, engineered, designed it to bring back our ways of life and our unity. He says, that's what I did. He says, and he says, what, did you see those empty places? They were all part of that. And they all did a great job. And all yous that are left too did a good job. He says, I'm so proud of you guys. He says, so why I came to see you is because you're part of that group. You're still living. And when you go somewhere, people comes to hear you talk. They like it when you talk to them. That's why I came to see you. And so when you go next time to Onondaga or Seneca or Cattaraugus or Lakota or Navajo country or wherever you go, and you see our people, the ones that are still left, got blanket on, I want you to deliver this message to the man and woman that remains living, that I am so proud of them for their courage and for their strength and their power and their great ideas of making the Freedom School and the immersion programs and cultural programs and ceremonies and what you did. I am so happy. It looks, they got healthy again. And then I leave you just to tell them that pretty soon, all of you that remain with blankets on, it won't be long when all of you will be gone. And only blankets and shawls will be on the ground. But after you are gone, little babies are going to be born under those blankets and shawls. And when they're born under those blankets and shawls, they're going to wear those. And when they do be born under that blanket and shawl, I am going to give them 7 times the power that I gave you guys the last 60 years. They will have 7 times more power. And if you want to see the Mohawk, Onondaga, Seneca, Navajo nations stand up again, you will see them when those kids are born. And I'm going to say to you today that I don't believe we're talking just about Mohawks and Lakota or Navajo. I'm telling you, I think they're talking about every human little young guy in the world. They will be given the power to rule this world. And they will rule it because they love their mother, and they will honor the thunders, and they'll honor the sun, and the moon, and the stars. Every sacred thing the Creator gave us at the beginning of the world, those kids will bring it back. And I plan to help them as long as I live. And I hope you do too. And I thank you for this honor.
I just wanted to say thank you, Tom, for your words of wisdom and for being the living embodiment of this knowledge and sharing it today. So thank you so very much. We're so grateful to have you here. Thank you. And this little one. I also wanted to just let you all know that if you missed some of the ceremony previously, we did put this on Facebook Live. If you look on the back of your brochures, you'll be able to see where our Facebook location is. It's Sacred Fire Foundation, so you'll be able to see everything that Tom talks about and Keiko's introduction. I also just very quickly wanted to let you know that there will be some nosh happening, so if you're hungry, that's coming out shortly. And then just last 2 bits of business. I want to acknowledge Mr. Marcos Terena, who came from the part of the survey today from Brazil to be with this friend Tom. So Marcos, and Marcos was And lastly, we work in partnership with 2 organizations, and they are part of our community. And we have representatives from them here today. Mark, where are you? He's hiding behind the pole. Mark Giuliano from the Recipient Center in upstate New York. And Larry Messerman from the Sacred Fire community, and they're literally all around the world. So you can find some information about the organizations we talked about. I want to thank you once again. Oh yes, and can you come up and
We'll bring it to you with your hand.
oh,
Exactly.
bring it in.
We'll bring this to you. I'll just take any of the award.
Thank you, everyone.